Hey guys, this is Swag and Play again. Welcome to episode 5 of our Halo 5 course tutorial series. Now we're going to go ahead and go deeper into labels to see how we can manipulate them in a way that would create AI. So we're going to go ahead and build some pretty basic AI here that's pretty deadly and pretty efficient. So we're going to go ahead and have a lot of fun this episode. Let's go ahead and get started. So for the sake of efficiency, we're going to go ahead and um, script this terminal to be able to turn on and off the AI at will through the method of powers. And then this guy is going to be attacking you when it's turned on, and he's going to be tossing these user alpha label mongooses at you. And let me go ahead and use this one for label problem. Okay, cool. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go ahead and set up the object that will be used as the representation of the AI. Now we're gonna go ahead and make it toss objects within its boundaries at you, and that way we need to go ahead and establish a boundary. So if you press the P key again and pull up the object's properties, we're gonna go ahead and go to boundary, and we're going to establish a boundary for this object. So to make it simple, we can go ahead and create a cylinder boundary, and it would be about it would have a radius of 64 units, and then we're gonna go ahead and give it 32 units top and 32 units to bottom, so that way it covers that entire area where the user label alpha mongooses will be at. So also we're gonna go ahead and make some more advanced uses of labels. So this is going to be a very insightful and interesting tutorial today. Alright, so let's go ahead and establish this boundary. We already have a cylindrical boundary of the object, and we will be using that to detect objects in its boundary that it can use against you. But before we get there, we're gonna go ahead and mess around with this to be able to turn on and off the AI. So we're gonna go ahead and, as we've done previously, we're gonna make it react to a specific interaction event. In this case, we're gonna go ahead and toggle the power on the alpha channel, and if it's turned on, it will turn on the AI. If it's turned off, the AI will be shut down. Okay. All right, cool. So this is gonna be a little bit more complicated since we're dealing with AI. When you're dealing with AI, you need to be very specific about the instructions you give it. Otherwise, it might not work properly. And sometimes you do too good of a job of an AI, and you lose control of your own AI, and that could cause some problems in gameplay and people rage quitting because the AI is just messing everybody up. So anyway, this is going to be our switch to turn on and off the AI. And our AI friend here, we're gonna go ahead and add a script to him. And what we're gonna go ahead and do, we're gonna use the timer check event. And this actually runs the timer in seconds to pretty much take a course of action. Now it has an initial and a repeat event. Basically, when it first starts the countdown initially, it will do these actions, but the countdown is going to be different from when it starts repeating itself in a loop. And this is actually more useful than you think. So for the sake of simplicity, we're going to make this 1 second countdown, both initial and repeat. So initially it'll be 1 second, and it'll keep looping in 1 second. And then we're going to go ahead and go into a few more complex details when it comes to scripting, because we need to be more specific now. So basically, we're not going to actually, we're going to go ahead and make it send a message to itself. We're going to make it send message alpha. So it's going to be telling itself alpha, 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 alpha every second constantly. Why do we want to do this? Because we need to make the AI able to shut down. So through this, and we'll go over that in a second. Now, we're gonna add a second script, which basically it actually combines two different conditions simultaneously. This is the only script that can actually combine two conditions simultaneously, and this is called message power multi. So the only conditions that it can match simultaneously would be messages and powers being set. And basically, the way this works is that you have a trigger count, which means it needs to meet a certain amount of conditions before it can actually take an action. Otherwise, it's not going to do anything. In this case, we're going to go ahead and set 2 conditions because there's 2 very important conditions that the AI needs to meet. And our first condition would be message receive alpha. So this is going to be sending itself the alpha message every second in order to detect if it is still active and if it can still keep attacking you. And then we're going to go ahead and use power check alpha. Now this is going to check if power is turned on, if the switch is turned on. If it's turned on, it's going to attack, which we're going to program in a second. If it's off, it's not going to do anything, but we don't need to set up a power off condition because it will just simply not do anything until it's turned on. Okay, so once these 2 conditions are met, alpha is turned on and the message alpha is received, we're gonna go ahead and start messing around with this real quick. I like to be a little bit dramatic when it comes to making an AI attack. So we're gonna go ahead and make it play a sound. So basically we go to the bottom of our actions list, pick sound play, and this determines which players can actually hear the sound. So not every player is gonna be able to hear unless you want it to be like that, but for simplicity's sake, we'll make all players hear the sound. And then once you pick the sound, there's gonna be a list of sounds here available. And basically, we're gonna go ahead and make it an infected spawning sound. We'll go over that in a second. So it's gonna be performing these actions in order, and you do want to be specific about which order you do this. So we're gonna go ahead and pick move offset, and like the previous video, we're going to pick which objects we want to pick. Here we need to be very specific. So I'm going to pick user alpha labels, right? But we want to pick only the alpha objects that are inside this AI's boundary. And out of all of these, we want to pick the nearest one, the one that is closest to him within this boundary. That is labeled alpha. So this one's not gonna work. This one's not gonna be touched because he's labeled Bravo. And these 2 are not going to be touched because they're outside the boundary despite being labeled alpha. So only the ones inside here will be attacking you directly. Alright, cool. So we have our condition here, and we have the objects that we're gonna use. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna give it a little bit of life to this AI. So we're gonna make it move towards itself, but we're gonna make a move 24 units on top of it within 1 second on the global axis. And as soon as it does that, we're gonna make it play another sound to indicate to players that it is attacking. So we'll go ahead and pick Spartan Nightwish. And then for our last actions, you can only have up to 4 actions in a given script, by the way. In our last action available, we're gonna make him throw these very same objects we previously mentioned and throw them at the player. User alpha, boundary this include, select nearest one, and we're gonna make them attack players. We're going to exclude dead players because we don't want them throwing mongooses at dead players. And then we're gonna pick the nearest one. There we go. And we're gonna make throw them at an extremely fast speed. So basically, it's gonna go ahead and attack 4 units above the player's axis globally, and it's gonna reach that location by 0.70 seconds. So that's extremely fast. Now, there's something else we need to cover as well. If you see these 4 options here, this is where scripting becomes more complicated. Basically, these affect which conditions the script would be running in. So we're gonna go ahead and have to pick condition interrupt and turn it off, because if we leave it on, it's going to be triggering itself every 1 second, and it's going to reset these actions every second. It's not going to be able to complete it all in the time frame that it needs to. So what it's going to do is that it's going to basically not interrupt the actions once the conditions are met, and that way it should be able to, you know, perform 1 attack at a time every second or so. And the rest of these parameters are okay. They don't really affect the script in any way. So we're gonna go ahead and take care of that real quick. This is alpha. Boom. Alright, cool. So the AI is not gonna do anything yet because it's turned off, but we're gonna turn it on with this script shortly. And now this terminal is gonna go ahead and turn it on. Wait a minute. Okay, so that was not supposed to happen. Alright, so let's go back to our AI. It looks like we weren't specific enough in our parameters, so let's go ahead and go back into them. Objects. Is there alpha? Okay, so sometimes adding and include can be a little bit confusing. So we're gonna put boundary this include. This is a very exclusionary parameter. Basically, any object that's not inside the object's boundary is going to be excluded. And also, you know, you have the label. So let's go ahead and put label include just in case as well, you know. Yeah, because basically this is gonna narrow it down a lot more. This doesn't really guarantee that it narrows it down. It only picks the ones that are user alpha. But as you previously saw, these 2 are user alphas. They were still selected regardless. So basically, we want to put boundary this include to be more strict about that. And just, you know, for safety purposes, we're gonna put label include user alpha as well. So let's go ahead and try that again. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So now we managed to turn it off. And if we were to reset the positioning, you can see that it's not doing anything until I command it so. Boom. And there you go. That's pretty much how it works. Alright, so that's pretty much basic AI programming in Halo 5 Reach. I hope you enjoyed this video, so thank you very much, and have a good night.